upset of the night. Donovan Mitchell on your left, Jayson Tatum on your right. We're going to pick this up early. JWill, here's a moment. Darius Garland is down, and Tatum knocks it in.
Hey, look, they made this three, but that was the theme of the game for Boston. Being obsessed with the three-point shot and it really not equating to them attacking the paint.
That's right. Tatum had 25, but the Celtics are down by 6. And then Zach Lowe, Donovan Mitchell, unbelievable in that third quarter.
We've been waiting for Mitchell and Garland to go off in the same game. They're going to need it to beat Boston 3 more times if they even get close. And that's a, oh boy.
Get over here.
That's a buzzer beater at the end of the third
The
from
only thing
Donovan
he missed
Mitchell.
was the fan right there. Tapping him up.
The Cavs had 7 threes in the third quarter. The Celtics were 0 for 8 in that quarter from three-point range, and then it's more from Mitchell in the fourth quarter. Are they going to win this game, actually? Yes, they are. Look, the bank is open. The shrug is there. 10 minutes left. Cavs by 12, and they're not going away.
No, spin cycle. There was a question about his explosiveness entering the playoffs. That question was answered.
Mitchell with 29. Celtics fall. Jason, what happened?
Nobody was in there defeated or deflated. I mean, never want to lose, especially in the playoffs. We get it, right? The world thinks we're never supposed to lose. We're supposed to win every game by 25. And it's not going to be like that all the time.
It's an interesting way to approach that. The Celtics, for the record, were 12.5-point favorites. They lost by 24. That's the largest loss by a double-digit favorite in the playoffs in 33 years, nearly double the next closest. Kendrick Perkins watched it. He did not like it. Listen.
It's the sense of urgency, right? It's the laid back, being cool. Jayson Tatum saying, oh, people don't expect us to lose games. Well, we don't, especially at home where you have been so dominant. And I'm waiting on this Jayson Tatum moment, right? We've been talking about Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Donovan Mitchell. When are we going to talk about Jayson Tatum?
That's what they were saying last night. Let's dive into it here. Drea, particularly when you hear Jayson Tatum and the approach he took afterwards, what's your reaction?
Well, the approach was nonchalant, and then I disagree with Jayson Tatum when he says everyone expects us to win by 25. I don't know if everyone expects them to win by 25, but we certainly don't expect them to ever lose by 20. Like, we, at least from Boston, because of what we've seen from them all season, we expect them to be competitive in games, like Kendrick Perkins said, especially at home. It's always interesting to me when players, or just people in general, they start to get frustrated when you hold them to the standard that they set for themselves. We have this expectation for Boston because it's what we've seen all season. So 25-point wins all the time? No, we don't expect that. But 25, 24-point loss, that is what we do not expect to see from Boston ever. And for me, the three-pointer, you said it, they're obsessed with the three, but for me it was the missed layups. Missing layups, getting blown by on the defensive end, to me that just showed lack of focus. Like, if you're going to take a lot of threes, that's fine, but at least lock in on the defensive end and lock in on your finishes on the inside.
Yeah, for a team that's 37-4 due to regular season in home games, like that's a shocking loss. Look, I still think Boston is going to win the series. But the reason why this is concerning for me is at times the Celtics remind me of my kids, right? When they sit down and they play with their food, I'm like, just sit down and eat your food. Like, why are you dancing around? It's taking you an hour to eat your food. Just eat your food. And at times they play around with their food, and that's concerning for a team. As the talent level gets better, as you get deeper into the playoffs, you can't afford to do things like that at home.
And you know why? And I'll say, listen, I mean, you guys played. I defer to your expertise, and obviously I did not. But I can think of a lot of all-time great players who would sit up there after their team lost by 20 at home in a playoff game and would not have that same approach that Jayson Tatum just did. Now, I love him. He's an unbelievable player, and he's a great guy. No one is knocking any of that. But I think if I'm a fan of that team, I'd rather hear him up there saying, that was unacceptable, that will not happen again. I was looking for a little bit of that from him last night.
Yeah, to be a great player, it takes a little bit of vulnerability. You have to be willing to take the shots that other people don't want to take in order to make those to become icons. And I think we're expecting a little bit more vulnerability from Jayson Tatum. It feels like Donovan Mitchell, people ask me who's going to be the best player in this series. And I say, you know what, Donovan Mitchell will have, games where he shows he is capable. We saw that game too, but people expect Jayson Tatum to be that guy. I think he needs to be a little bit more vulnerable. I mean, just shooting those threes, Anybody can shoot a three in the NBA when you're wide open, but can you break down plays? Can you force yourself to the rim? Can you draw a foul, which they did to some degree? To me, that was the biggest X factor. Like, when things aren't going their way, are they going to just let that keep happening, or are they going to lose it a little bit? Lose your cool. They're so cool, calm, and collected. They play it cool. Lose your cool. Show people that you care. And I think that's a frustration because when they lost Marcus Smart, you knew you had a guy out there that would go and shake the table down when things weren't working out. Who is that guy? They're not constructed with those personality pieces.
Derek White's been the best player on the Celtics in the playoffs, and at some point that's going to have to become Jayson Tatum if they're going to get where they want to go. Look, you talked about their home record in the regular season. They stink at home in the playoffs.
Can we show the full screen, please, Cindy, to illustrate this point? Go ahead.
And I just like, this is every series now almost where they just blow these game twos. And I don't care if no one was deflated or whatever words Jayson Tatum used. I want them to be angry. I want them to be sick of this. They usually do, and they got to the rim more. Drea's right. They lost this game because their defense stunk. And that is where the lack of urgency and that is where the lack of, like, just overall, we got to win this game wasn't there. And at some point, they got to wipe some of these teams out.
I'm happy because that was the treetop. We were venting. This was therapy. But if we're going to dive into the deep cuts, which you love, the reason why their defense stinks is because Kristaps Porzingis is not on the floor.
That doesn't, but they didn't get back on defense. They were just doing fundamentally bad things.
But also, he is a rim protector. He's a top 5 rim protector. And I think, especially now, Evan Mobley has been the key for Cleveland. He's been playing more confidently. I think he scored the most out of setting screens. He generated the most points that the Celtics have seen in the last 2 years. That's the difference right here.
Just to your point, you talk about effort, right? You talk about a small backcourt of Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and Karis LeVert coming off the bench. They had 20 rebounds. Like, they got out-rebounded. So think about a smaller team versus the more physical team, the taller team, out-rebounded the Boston Celtics at home. Like, that's just effort.
This is a team that I traveled with the last 2 postseasons. I saw them lose an inexcusable Game 6 in the conference final at home against Miami 2 years ago that forced a Game 7 that easily could have knocked them out. I thought the year they lost, that same year they lose to Golden State in the final, I thought they were the better team. They lose to Miami in the Eastern Conference final last year. They were definitively the better team, and they continue to do this, losing a game to Miami and losing a game here. Are they going to get knocked out in the East? No, because they were extremely fortunate. There's no one left that can beat them. The Knicks have no one. Chiney's going to start at power forward for them tonight. I don't think the Pacers aren't ready and the Cavs just aren't good enough. But they are fortunate that Embiid is out and Giannis is out and the Knicks aren't at full strength, because this again looks like a Celtics team that is begging to get knocked out by a lesser opponent.
Well, we've been talking about, right, is Jayson Tatum going to step up and be a superstar? And then Jaylen Brown and Derek White, they've been playing so well. Jayson Tatum puts up 25. Derek White struggles. If we're going right to the finals, they need all of it. They need Jayson Tatum to be a superstar, and they need everyone else to play well. And they need to start putting those pieces together in the East. Maybe not in this series. I think they're going to win this series. But they need to start playing all together and all playing well to prepare for if they make it to the finals, because you can't just turn it on. It doesn't just all of a sudden click because you're in the finals against incredible competition from someone in the West. It's not going to be a switch that just flips. They've got to put the pieces together starting now.
So, Green, in the last 2 seasons, postseasons under Joe Mazzulla, 16 and 11, right? Favored in all 11 losses, and 8 of those 11 losses at home.
Yeah. Someone pointed out to me that we picked on Countdown, we picked the Celtics to win literally every game of every series the year that they lost the championship to Golden State. And they wound up needing 7 games to beat the Heat, and they lost in 6 to the Warriors. All 11, it's a great stat out there, and Hembo's re-emphasizing it. They lose games they should win, and eventually that comes back to bite you in the behind.